Bro, turn around, don't drown. Holy smokes. We're in trouble. Turn around, don't drown, people.
A series of relentless torrential thunderstorms has unleashed a catastrophic volume of rainfall across the Memphis metropolitan area and broader Shelby County, precipitating severe flash flooding that has paralyzed morning commutes, inundated residential neighborhoods, and forced emergency services into active rescue operations. The National Weather Service, NWS, issued multiple emergency flash flood warnings as successive bands of heavy precipitation saturated the region. Meteorologists confirmed that some areas absorbed up to 3 inches of rainfall in just over an hour, compounding the stress on local drainage systems already vulnerable from a week of unstable weather patterns. The sudden accumulation of surface water turned vital transit corridors into virtual rivers, presenting immense hazards for morning commuters and commercial transport alike. Chaos erupted on Interstate 240 in Midtown, where major flooding brought traffic to a complete standstill. Highway crews were deployed in force to pump standing water from choked lanes, but the structural backlog extended deep into surrounding arteries. On Interstate 40 near North Danny Thomas Boulevard, westbound lanes were completely submerged under muddy waters, forcing Tennessee Department of Transportation, TDOT, officials to carefully redirect a trickle of vehicles through shallow segments, causing traffic jams that extended across the bridge into Arkansas. Long recognized as a localized flood hotspot, the intersection near Jackson Avenue and Macon Road suffered extensive inundation. Onlookers captured footage of vehicles attempting to wade through deep torrents, with numerous cars stalling out entirely. Local residents noted that despite years of structural awareness, the drainage capacity simply could not manage the sheer velocity of the downpour. Further east, along Poplar Avenue near Highland and the University of Memphis, lanes became largely impassable. Drivers were seen clustering toward the central turning lane to avoid the deeper water accumulating along the curbs. In front of International Paper near Massey Road, several vehicles stalled out in rapid succession, turning the commercial sector into a gridlocked hazard zone. The impact stretched directly to the state border, where State Line Road was shut down due to rising waters, leaving local motorists stranded and forcing severe detours through residential side streets. As vehicles succumbed to the rising currents, emergency personnel and ordinary citizens stepped up to prevent potential tragedies. In East Memphis, a particularly dramatic scene unfolded when a woman became trapped inside her rapidly submerging sedan. Employees from a nearby local diner, alongside passing citizens, formed a makeshift rescue chain to pull the woman safely from her vehicle through the rushing floodwaters. The Shelby County Sheriff's Office and the Memphis Office of Emergency Management, OEM, activated coordinated high water response units. In areas like Millington and rural pockets off Brunswick Road, emergency crews used specialized high-water vehicles to assist residents trapped in low-lying properties and local mobile home parks. Tower operators reported an unprecedented surge in calls. One local tow truck driver operating near Lamar Avenue and Willett Street noted that his company alone towed over a dozen hydrolocked vehicles in a single afternoon. Automotive experts warn that driving through standing water of this depth frequently causes irreversible engine damage, rendering vehicles total losses. The severity of the flash flooding has renewed intense public scrutiny regarding Memphis's aging stormwater infrastructure. While public works crews were mobilized prior to the storm to inspect inlets and clear debris from catch basins, the sheer volume of water easily overwhelmed the municipal storm network. In Midtown and areas near the downtown district, video shared by the Downtown Memphis Neighborhood Association showed pressurized stormwater bubbling violently out of manholes near Beale Street and Riverside Drive, proving that the subterranean pipe systems were completely pressurized and unable to accept further runoff. Angry residents took to social media platforms, demanding long-term infrastructure investment. This intersection has flooded for 26 years, one resident stated, referring to the recurrent issues on Jackson Avenue. It is the exact same spots every single time it rains heavily. The city needs to do something permanent. According to chief meteorologists tracking the system, the atmospheric setup remains highly volatile. Although the main line of severe storms has begun to drift east, the ground throughout Shelby County remains entirely saturated, meaning any additional rainfall will instantly convert into dangerous surface runoff. The majority of flash flood fatalities occur inside vehicles. Drivers are urged never to drive around barricades or attempt to cross flooded roadways, as water depth is deceptive and asphalt underneath may have already collapsed. Residents are advised to actively check the TDOT SmartWay traffic map for active road closures and monitor the National Weather Service, NWS, Memphis tracker for real-time localized alerts. Downed trees, displaced manhole covers, and severe street flooding should be reported immediately to local emergency dispatch or via the city's non-emergency hotlines to prevent further accidents. Cleanup efforts are expected to take several days as municipal teams wait for local creeks, streams, and low-lying basins to fully recede into the Mississippi River watershed.
Hey man, y'all want some money? Come get in with the rich family.
At least 11 tornadoes touched down across Illinois and Indiana during the severe weather front that tore through the Chicago area last week, causing widespread damage and leaving hundreds of thousands without power. The National Weather Service on Saturday added 4 tornadoes to the list of those confirmed in Thursday's intense storm system, all in Indiana, Cedar Lake, Schneider to Hebron, Ludlow, and Boswell. That's on top of the 3 previously confirmed Illinois twisters in northwest suburban Bartlett, downstate Streeter, and another that stretched from Graymont to Dwight, plus 4 more in Indiana, Merrillville, St. John, Couts, and Winona. No major injuries or fatalities were reported in the wake of Thursday's storms, but scores of buildings were damaged across the area. More than 27,000 ComEd customers were still without power late Saturday. The Bartlett tornado was given a preliminary EF1 rating, indicating winds of up to 110 miles per hour. The Streeter and Couts tornadoes were both rated EF3, with winds of up to 165 miles per hour. Officials are still assessing the damage and could add more tornadoes to the final count. Survey teams were set to evaluate damage in Hickory Hills, Bridgeview, and Chicago's South Side, plus areas south of the Kankakee River. Meanwhile, residents in tornado-ravaged areas in Illinois and Indiana were grappling with the damage to their homes and neighborhoods on Friday, after the strong line of storms barreled through communities south of Chicago and left trails of destruction. Cleanup efforts were underway, and utility companies said power restoration efforts could extend into next week. Thursday's storms ripped roofs off of buildings, flattened homes, brought down scores of trees and power lines, and caused hundreds of thousands of power outages and major air traffic disruptions. Officials said there were no reports of deaths or life-threatening injuries, though there were several people treated for minor injuries. Tornado damage was reported in several towns, including Merrillville and Hebron in Indiana and Streeter, Illinois. Authorities were surveying the damage Friday and preparing to issue emergency declarations needed to get recovery funding. Marcia Smith was in her apartment building in Merrillville, about 33 miles, 53 kilometers, southeast of Chicago, when the tornado struck the complex, tearing roofs off 3 buildings, knocking down trees and breaking car windshields before heavy rain caused more damage to the homes. She and some neighbors huddled under an indoor stairwell holding hands and praying. "The louder the tornado got, the louder I started praying," said Smith, 54, a CPR instructor. "I said, 'Oh God, it's here.' I said, 'Lord Jesus, make it pass, let it pass over.' I said, 'God, give us the strength to make it through this.' And it just started wrecking." Smith said there was an eerie calm just before the tornado struck. Then it sounded like a freight train smashing into her building, she said. She thanked God no one was hurt. Friday morning, she surveyed her neighborhood and described it as a catastrophe. Officials in Merrillville said more than 200 buildings were damaged, incling some that were destroyed. Downed trees and power lines blocked streets, and part of a high school's roof was ripped off. Cleanup crews were out working Friday. Multiple agencies from the region helped local first responders search and assessed damaged areas, town officials said on social media. Crews worked into the night clearing roads. The American Red Cross set up a 700-bed shelter. In and around Streator and Hebron, photos and videos posted on social media showed damage in those areas, similar to that in Merrillville. The National Weather Service said tornadoes hit those areas as well, and it was surveying the damage to determine exactly how many tornadoes touched down. In Streator, a manufacturing and farm city about 100 miles, 160 kilometers, southwest of Chicago, emergency crews were inspecting the damage. Officials said nearly a dozen homes were damaged, including some that were destroyed. A reunification center for displaced residents was set up in its city hall, and the Red Cross opened a shelter. Streator Mayor Tara Badai said there were no reported deaths. "We are incredibly grateful for the safety of our residents and the quick action of emergency personnel," she said in a statement. Officials said 4 people were treated at a hospital for minor injuries. First responders also worked through the night in Hebron, a small town about 50 miles, 80 kilometers, southeast of Chicago, officials said in a Facebook post. Damage assessments were underway. Jennifer Hall was in her garage in Elkhart, Indiana, as the winds and rain picked up Thursday evening. Suddenly, she said, she heard a loud crash and discovered a tree limb had gone through the roof of her rental home. She used buckets to catch the rain coming in from the hole. "I'm just nervous because it's just been one thing after another," said Hall, explaining she just had surgery and her husband is out of town. The tornadoes came after severe storms swept through the Midwest on Wednesday, knocking out power, damaging buildings, and canceling flights. There were nearly 180,000 power outages in Illinois on Friday afternoon, down from more than 200,000 earlier in the day. Nearly 115,000 homes and businesses in Indiana were in the dark, down a few thousand from earlier Friday, according to PowerOutage.us. Commonwealth Edison, a major electricity provider in Illinois, said it expected to restore 80% of the power outages from Wednesday's storms by Saturday night, and 80% of outages from Thursday's storms by Sunday night. In Indiana, NIPSCO said it was working to restore power as fast as possible, but did not provide a timeline. The storms delayed or halted flights at airports in some cities, including Chicago, Philadelphia, and New York on Thursday. Parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic also strained under high heat and humidity. Dozens of flights were canceled or delayed Friday at Chicago's O'Hare International and Midway International airports, according to FlightAware, a flight tracking website. Police in Des Moines, Iowa, said a 54-year-old man was found critically injured Thursday morning at a homeless encampment in a park after being hit by a tree that broke apart and fell during strong storms.
That wasn't an AI. That was true story in Bridgeview, guys.